Lo siento por no hablo español. But I'm so glad you speak English so that I can talk to you today. I'm absolutely delighted to be here and talk a little bit to you about how the Coca-Cola Company is finding the edge. And the title of this presentation is very important because as a company our size in 206 countries with 1.7 billion servings of our product every day, we are simply too big to get distracted by shiny objects. When we're at our best, we bring everything that has worked for us and we lean in on what's new. We refuse to jump off the edge, but we want to be right on it, leaning in. There we go. The one thing I think all of us know as marketers is that evolution is absolutely mandatory. Those of us who are static will get passed by. It's dynamic, it's changing, it's constant, and that has never been more true than right now. My flicker's not working, there we go. So why now? The consumer engagement environment is changing, and it's changed dramatically. This is a very simple chart, but it really explains a lot of the change that as marketers we're operating in. So in the 80s, we used to communicate to people really one way, a mass message to a mass audience. We took one message, put a lot of money behind it, and we sent it out. In the 90s, we got a little bit more inspired, and we started segmenting our messages. We understood that perhaps a teenager wasn't the same as a mother, and a mother wasn't the same as a man, right? And we wanted to organize those messages and send them. In the 2000s, with the rise and the strength of the internet, as brands and companies, we had to contemplate a one-to-one relationship. That was the expectation of consumers, that we would know them individually. And now, with the strength and muscularity of social networks, all those one-to-one relationships are networked together. And the notion that a brand or a company can have a one-to-one relationship anymore is absolutely bygone. Because by definition, every single one of you in this room has on average 130 friends in your social network. So when I engage with you as a company, as a brand, if I do my job well, I also want to take advantage of your network. I also want you to talk about me to your social network. This is being driven by penetration and adoption of technology that is unprecedented. It won't surprise anyone in this room, but it does surprise many executives that there are as many online computers in the world as there are TVs. And that number is eclipsed by mobile phones. 5 billion mobile phones in the world. Our numbers estimate that by 2020, 90% of the world's population will have a mobile phone. As marketers, if we don't know how to communicate over a mobile phone, we're done. Simply put, it is the most important medium of the next decade, period. And so the landscape is shifting, it's changing. You and I are living in it as not only marketers, but as consumers. It's dynamic, it's constant. It's all the brands, it's all the consumers, it's all the content, and it's changing constantly. My slides are very slow, there we go. So what does this change mean? Well, it means that there is unbelievable amounts of content that scale like never before. That scale spreads to the furthest endpoints in real time, with or without us. And that's the new world order for us as marketers. So what are we going to do? At Coca-Cola, we've got 3 focus areas, and we've begun to call our strategy liquid and linked. Because the content is liquid and the connections are liquid. This content's got to go to the furthest endpoint. We believe that everything communicates. Everything communicates. But at the same time, if it becomes unlinked from the brand strategy, from each other, then we've done ourselves no good. We've just created more chaos in a sea of content. So it must stay linked. It must stay linked to the brand strategy, and it must stay linked to each other. So what are the 3 focus areas? First, stories. Brand content, brand experiences that fuel brand conversations. All great brand stories. What do we want to do with those stories? We want those stories to spread, right? Like liquid. We want those stories to go to the furthest endpoints. And why do we want stories that spread? Because we want to create value. Brand value and brand love for our brands and our company, and shared value for our supply chain, and quite frankly, for the world. That is our responsibility. It's the expectation of consumers now that everything you do will leave no impact on the world. And all of us will be judged as much by the impact we create in the world as much as the product that we make. So brand love, brand value, and shared value. So let's click into each one of these a little bit further. Let's start with stories. Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. And it's the way people learn. And it has been that way over time. It's the way we communicate, it's the way we share, it's the way we experience our world. And this has been since the beginning of time. Think about it for just a second. The very earliest communication, hieroglyphics on a wall, were stories well told. And when the walls then went to stone tablets, and then guess what? Those were early mobile phones, right? When they figured out how to put the hieroglyphic, this was their version of mobile. Stories well told on paper with the advent of the printing press, in broadcast with the invention of radio and the movement of voice, on telegraph with the invention of the telephone, on video over TV, on the internet, on mobile. The platform will change again and again and again. What is the constant? Stories, storytelling. The art of telling a great story has never changed. The platform changes. But we all must be great practitioners of telling amazing stories. We study amazing storytellers to think about the craft of a story well told. In 1963, did Martin Luther King say, "I have a message about civil rights"? Did he? No, he said, "I have a dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up to its creed. And holding these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that my 4 small children will one day live in a nation where they will be judged on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I have a dream." A masterful storyteller who changed a generation through his ability to tell a great story. That's the art of storytelling. So at Coca-Cola, for us, it all begins with this bottle. This bottle that in and of itself tells an amazing story. This bottle that was invented in 1916 when the company, under pressure from copycat Coca-Colas or colas, knew it had to differentiate its package. The brief for this bottle was to be recognizable in the dark, to be recognizable smashed on the ground. Did they meet the brief? Did they meet the brief? Would you know this bottle in the dark? Would you know it smashed on the ground? Is it a story told just by itself? Absolutely. And that's the requirement we have to hold ourselves to for every package. Every package must tell a story. We own this media. Let it work hard. So here's a picture of our water, a product in Japan called Ilohas. The bottle is made out of 30% plant material and it's crushable. So imagine the story that this tells. You drink your water, you crush your bottle. You might have a vase. If nothing else, you have limited the space in the landfill. This package by itself tells a story of what this product stands for, what this brand is about. In the same way, our equipment must tell the same stories. This is one of my favorite slides. These 2 vending machines were developed at different times in our company, but they had the same brief. And the brief on these vending machines was to be more interactive, to have consumers spend more time with our machines. That makes sense, right? That's an owned medium. So if consumers are going to go up to them, have them engage with this medium. The one on the left does a good job. It's a bit of a blurry picture here, but it's got a lot going on, admittedly. You know, get it here. That says touch, shop, and enjoy. There's an interactive screen. There's a digital shop. And frankly, at the end of it, I'm not sure if I'm going to get a Coke or not. I might have a nice time at your vending machine, but really the original reason I came here was to get a drink. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get a drink. The one on the right simply says touch here. And the screen comes to life. And you can download content. You can have a brand experience. You can engage. You can take away content from us. And this is the power of design and the importance of storytelling and a story well told on our equipment. In the same way, we have a new fountain machine. Out of one machine, you can get over 100 flavors of our products. That's pretty amazing, right? But let's think about it from a consumer engagement perspective. What if you like a little bit of Coca-Cola with a splash of Sprite and maybe a hint of Fanta right on top? That's just your weird, strange mix, but it's all you. What if you create your mix and the machine remembers it? What if there's a scanner or an interactive screen where you can download a QR code and send it to your mobile phone? And what if every time you walk up to one of these machines, you simply scan your code to get your mix, to get your drink? And what if you can put Dave's Drink on your Facebook page and your friends can now make Dave's Drink every time they go up with the same QR code? What kind of story is that telling? What kind of consumer engagement is that creating off the back of a machine? There's no ad. That's a machine telling a story about a company and a set of brands. That's great storytelling. So obviously we tell and have told stories in film over time. This is probably one of our most famous commercials. It was 40 years old earlier this month. July 7th, 1971 is when the Hilltop ad first ran. And what's marvelous about the Hilltop ad is it had a cultural point of view. When Coca-Cola is at its best, it has a point of view, and it expresses that point of view. And this was one of our best moments. I'm going to show you a film now that's one of our more recent efforts that also has a point of view. It's from Argentina, so take a look.
My friend, I will love you till the end. I'll be my woman, my money. When you call me, I'll be there. Cause you're my best friend, and the one who means something in this world. Whoa. My friend, I will love you till the end. And I will share with you everything I have to share. I'll be my woman, my money. When you call me, I'll be there. And I will share with you everything I have to share. Whoa. My friend, I will love you till the end.
So it's a lovely story, right? And true to the brand. It's about friendship, togetherness, happiness. A lovely story that fuels a conversation. A brand experience that creates brand content that goes online that fuels then a brand conversation. That's what we're trying to do. This is a billboard, an outdoor board from the Philippines. It is made of plants, real plants. What an amazing message and story. that we want to send out, that we want our products and our brands to help the world, right? Back to shared value. A story built into the medium being the message and being the story. Of course, experiences are very, very critical. This is a picture from last year's FIFA World Cup from Berlin. We had dozens of these fan fests around the world. There are about 200,000 people who came here. And they enjoyed the brand. We served and sampled our brand at the perfect temperature, 37 degrees. And we had exchanges, so you could get your picture taken. We would get important consumer database information so that we could follow up. We could email them their picture, content exchange, an exchange around a passion point, an experience around a passion point, creating a brand story and a brand experience for our consumers. This is Dr. Pemberton. He's the inventor of Coca-Cola. So would be way old by now. Coca-Cola is 125 years old, and he was not 0 when he invented it. But you might not know that he is tweeting. He has almost 60,000 followers. These are the stories you can tell of your brand. And when Dr. Pemberton talks, it's a very different voice than perhaps some of our commercials would be, but it's an authentic voice, and it's a voice of knowledge and wisdom. And that gives us permission to have a different conversation with those consumers, fueling a brand conversation online. And this is one of my favorite slides. I call this owned media looking at owned media. Because if you are not thinking about your employees as perhaps the best storytellers available to you, then you are missing a real opportunity. This guy can tell stories about my brand more credibly than any paid commercial I can do. We have 770,000 system employees around the world. If each of those employees can tell authentic, real, rich, genuine stories about our brands, that's a lot of effort to the good. So we always, always as marketers have to think about our employees and the messages and the stories they can tell and how equipped they are to tell the stories about our brands. So that's a little bit about how we're thinking about stories. Stories become our currency, ultimately, in this networked social environment. The currency that any company and any brand has is the stories that that brand and that company can tell. So, brand stories that spread. Let's talk about spread now. It's a new environment. So when we talk about creating brand content and brand experiences to fuel brand conversations, we have to think differently about what that looks like. I'm going to show you a video now from Brazil that we put together. And what I want you to see is that it started just as an experience, but the experience turned into content, and the content goes through digital media, and it creates a conversation. Let's look at the video. So a brand experience experienced by a few hundred or thousand, creating brand content that is then seen by a few million and passed along to a few more million, to generate a brand conversation that lives on long beyond the experience itself. And that's how we're trying to fuel the content and the stories and have that spread that we're talking about. Another example I'm going to show you is from, it's coming up, there it is. We did a 24-hour recording, a music recording session with the band Maroon 5. Never before done. Took a band into a studio and asked them to write a song in 24 hours. We webcast for the full 24 hours from the studio, and it was completely integrated with Twitter, so consumers could follow along, and we would ask the audience questions on, you know, do you like the guitar riff or do you like the drum beat? So they got to vote on aspects of the song. I think the most amazing part of this was actually watching the creative process from beginning to end. All, you know, when they ate, when they played ping pong, when they argued, when they, you know, had brain blocks on the copy, all of that was put out there for consumers. 460 million consumers, 460 million impressions, excuse me, from 139 countries in 24 hours. A 14% engagement rate on Twitter. And on average, a 10-minute viewing cycle. Now, those aren't huge numbers, but in 24 hours, they're pretty dramatic. And these are activations around passion points, right? Things that consumers can't get otherwise. Very differentiated experiences for us that, again, create content. We've had 100,000 downloads of the song. And most of those happen in the first week or two after the event. So again, another way of creating and spreading a story for your brand. Because, of course, the truth is we're not controlling the conversation, in case no one's aware of that. We took an estimate of views of content on YouTube for Coca-Cola. It's just a swag. But in aggregate, there are about 146 million views of Coca-Cola content. But look at the makeup and the breakdown of that 146 million. 26 million views against content that Coca-Cola put out. 120 million views against content that consumers created. We're not controlling the dialogue. Those days are gone. Forget what you learned in school. In brand management, when you were just going to send out the message and it was going to be a good, clean living, that doesn't happen anymore. I would estimate that 80% plus of the content and conversation on our brands is coming at us, not that we are generating. Right? So that's the new reality. We have to get invited into these communities. We have to co-create and participate. We have to curate and cultivate a great conversation, but we no longer control that dialogue and that conversation. I'm going to show you a quick clip of a piece of content that is on YouTube.
Brendan, are you in there?
That's a great ad. I had nothing to do with it. Her name is Jess Paul. Her handle is Pruse Love. She has her own YouTube channel. She's got tons of content. The interesting thing about this is, in order to use her video in my presentations to a few hundred or thousand people, I have to get her permission. Did she ask permission to use the world's most valuable brand? If you don't think the world has changed, take note. Exhibit A, Jess Paul, playing with a $70 billion brand without one legal document. Would we ever think about taking legal action against Jess Paul? You bet you don't. We want Jess Paul to do more. And so who is the person in your building who's having the most difficult time with this change? The lawyers. And rightfully so. I'm very pro-lawyer. I'm not anti-lawyer, but it's a dramatic change around trademark rights and legal rights. This is a very new environment that we're all operating in. We also do a fair amount of social listening, which is great for our brands, and it's something we all should be doing more. This is the new form of customer service, in case you haven't heard that yet. And this is how consumers expect to engage with you. Our 800 number calls have gone down. Our social engagement has gone up. This is how consumers want to talk to you. And when we do the social listening, this is on Glasso Vitamin Water, we actually listen beyond just when people use our brand. So we're out in the community listening and participating. This is a guy named Alpine Jojo, and he put out a tweet that said, "Stupid cold is making me feel yuck, need to kill it with brandy, stat." And our vitamin water guys were listening, so they responded to Alpine Jojo, and they said, "Hey, Alpine Jojo, if the brandy doesn't help cure the cold, would you care for a complimentary vitamin water delivery?" Imagine Alpine Jojo's surprise. And he says, well, he is British, "How lovely of you. Yes, please, I love that stuff." And what happens next? The money shot. Alpine Jojo puts a picture of himself drinking the product out where? To his social network. I have taken a one-to-one experience and I've amplified it into his network. We have the world's largest, currently, brand fan page on Facebook at almost 33 million fans for Coca-Cola. It happens to be the largest in Mexico, also at almost 2 million fans in Mexico. 32 million is a great number. 33 million is a wonderful number, a great number. But if you're in the business of 1.7 billion servings a day, that 33 million of our likes and our fans are networked to almost 600 million Facebook fans. So if we do our job right and we put great brand stories out into the community and that community passes the stories along, 600 million in a business of 1.7 billion servings every day is even more interesting than 33 million. It's about leveraging the network. You gotta leverage the network. And of course, there's a lot of discussion about this, but this comes for free. Free is a difficult word. It's not really free. But there is no inherent cost to having a YouTube channel. There is no inherent cost to having a Facebook fan page. From a media perspective, any of us who are doing this know there is a significant expense from a resource perspective, but it's not a media cost. We also know that when we amplify these efforts through media, we get better results. So it's not that we advocate not purchasing media around this either, because it's the intersection of all of your owned, earned, shared, and paid media that makes it work. And of course, when I mention shared media for us are environments where our product is available, but we don't necessarily control the environment. Like these guys. This is our biggest customer, Walmart. There are 200 million people who go through a Walmart every week. That's a huge medium. And if we're not telling great stories and having our stories spread into these endpoints, when consumers are at the shelf making a selection on the product, then we've missed an opportunity. That number is eclipsed by the 60 million people who walk into a McDonald's every day. Think about that opportunity. How do we tell great stories in these environments where consumers are making the decision about our product? It's a very real and important medium for us. And as you'll be familiar, almost 50% of our business comes through outlets like these, bodegas, who have hundreds of millions of people around the world who go into small bodegas, mom and pop, traditional trade stores. We must also tell our stories here. Shared media is absolutely critical for the spread of your stories and your messages. So how do you get innovation into your media model? This is a model that we've started using. To protect the innocent, I have taken percentages off. I have to have a few secrets. But I want you to understand the spirit of the model. And the spirit of the model is, as I said at the beginning of this discussion, we are not going to run from what works for us. This company's been around for 125 years, and there are things that we know that drive our business, and we cannot get distracted from those. I call those things now. And we're going to invest most of our money, as you can see, behind what's working for us right now, but not all of our money. What we've got to do is find the right break between now, new, and next. New are things that we know about, might be, sort of innovation within the now. So think about if you were doing some TV programming, maybe it's, rather than traditional TV ad buys, maybe it's in-programming content. An evolution off the now is new. Next is completely unknown. Don't know it. Never used it. Don't have any basis of knowledge of whether it's going to work or not. But for you all and for us, we have to find the right combination of now, new, and next in our media plans. If our plans look like all now, shame on us. We're static. We're not finding the edge. We're not leaning in. Because if you do this right, you will create innovation in your spend. Because done well, the next informs the new informs the now, and you create innovation in your, and value, therefore, in your spend. So you have to figure out what percentages go where and what's right for your companies, but don't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. Drive innovation in your investment. The best example I have from our brand portfolio is Fanta. So Fanta, we still tell great filmic stories, and we will continue to because that works for us. In the middle, we've got a range of, for new, we do, 3D downloads, mobile games, ringtones, wallpapers. We've got a whole offering of mobile apps. We would consider that new. That's not next. We know it. It's not all the way yet into our bread and butter, but it's there and we need to do it. The next piece for us is some experimentation we're doing online to see if we can create those brand conversations, see if we can fuel a dialogue on Fanta around Fanta's core brand positioning, which is more play in the world. So I'm going to show you a video on what we did there.
Hi.
35, 32. Oh my god.
Oh shoot! I
No.
These are voices.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It just said what I just said. This is so weird. What?
That was so much fun.
Are you feeling thirsty?
Bucket.
Oh, you got Fanta and music. Let's go,
So that's a lot of fun. The net message on spread is that we're moving from placement of messages. That's what we've done for years as marketers, right? Well-placed messages. It's not about well-placed messages anymore. It doesn't mean we're not going to do some of that, but our goal has to be about the movement of stories. That's the key to spread. Change from placement of messages to movement of stories. We've got to cultivate and fuel these great stories and these great dialogues around our brands. Why do we do that? Because we're all paid to generate value for our companies, right? Brand value and brand love is my remit. Shared value is something that our company feels responsible to do in the world. So we want to do all of that. You know, what happens now and how we drive that value is across the spectrum. So for us, it's the consumer, it's the shopper, it's the customer, our customers, so the Walmarts, the McDonald's, the bodegas, and then our constituents, our stakeholders, our employees, all the other constituents. Everything's got to fuel. Everyone's in that conversation now. And so that's how we're driving value. How are we measuring value? Well, that's changing, right? For ages, we have measured value on impressions, and impressions will remain the backbone of how we can, as marketers, understand the success of our programs. But by definition, impressions are passive. They're a passive measurement. They give me no sense of engagement level. And so at Coca-Cola, we're now looking at expressions. An expression around our brand. A like, a pass along, an upload, a dislike, by the way. Expressions aren't necessarily all just positive, but they show a level of engagement. They give us some sense of how people have engaged with content. So when you look at this, which do you think is more important, the share button or the like button? Share, exactly. Like is good, share is better, right? An expression of our brand. You've seen some content, you want to pass it along, you want to share it, you want to engage with it. That's great, that's fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for. So what's a fan worth? It's great, Wendy, you got 33 million of them. What's it worth? I don't know that any of the social networks have been able to figure this out yet. I think that's something that everyone's working on. We did our own proprietary study in Colombia and in Great Britain at the end of last year, and we began to understand what a fan will be worth for our company in terms of real business metrics. By definition, I get that they're the hand raisers, right? I get that they like us. That's great. Will they buy more? Will they consume more? Those are real business metrics. I'm paid on brand value, remember? So I gotta have brand love, but I gotta have brand value. So we studied fans in Colombia and Great Britain. We know the difference in value between a non-fan and a fan. A fan is twice as likely to consume and 10 times as likely to purchase our products next to a non-fan. That's a real business metric. That's real business value. We also studied an activated fan versus a non-activated fan, if you would. So we did a pre-post. We took consumption and purchase intent before we activated, and then we took the same measure after we activated, after an activation period. And we were able to increase consumption by 7% and purchase by 10%, already within someone who was a hand raiser. Those are good, real business metrics. Now, we've got a lot more to do in this. This is early study. But those are positive indicators, and these are the types of metrics that we're starting to look at as we're trying to understand how to create more value in this environment. So that's sort of it. We're all about creating brand content, brand experiences to fuel brand conversations. We want those stories to spread to the furthest endpoints, and we do all of that to create brand love, brand value, and shared value in the world. I'm going to leave you with one video. It is admittedly a tired video. I have been using it for a year, but I cannot come to Mexico and not run our FIFA World Cup video. Why? Because this market, out of the 160 markets that activated FIFA World Cup last year for Coca-Cola, was perhaps one of the best. And you'll see Mexico throughout this. You'll see Latin American countries throughout this. It's as close as we have come. We are restless. We don't think we've got it cracked by any stretch. But this is probably as close as we have come to getting it right in this new model. So take a look.
probably got a bit of a song nagging at the back of your head. Its official title is Waving Flag. Some of you might think of it as the Coca-Cola adverts.
Your flag, now wave your flag, now wave your flag. Oh.
Cuts, Wayne, it's not, it's just, do you know what I mean? It's a bit, and I want it to be, Madonna, 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 and end!
Chanter dans les stades, chanter dans les stades, chanter dans les stades, chanter dans les stades. あの山もあの空も飛び越えて風を感じた。درس لعلمك هتلاقي حلمك وبدي ايدك شجع بعلمك ده بعلمك. Sing forever young, singing songs underneath the sun. Let's rejoice in the beautiful game, and together at the end of the day, we all say درس لعلمك هتلاقي حلمك وبدي ايدك شجع بعلمك ده بعلمك. When I get older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a waving flag. Now wave your flag, now wave your flag.
They do incredible marketing. Now that played itself out in the World Cup campaign. Let's listen to this song that co-created for it, Wavin' Flag by a Somali hip-hop artist. They localized it into 18 different languages, and it went #1 on the pop chart in 17 countries. Then in the future we make together, that happiness can be just as ubiquitous as Coca-Cola.
So that's it. I have 5 minutes for some Q&A. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take a shot at answering them.